So hello everyone, and thank you for joining again. My name is Batel Zor, and I'm part of the developer advocate team in JFrog. And I'm sitting with my best friend Idan.
Hi everyone, my name is Idan Shahar. I'm a cloud solutions architect with Microsoft in Middle East and Africa. Really happy to be here today. Actually, this is very exciting for me because that's kind of the first physical engagement I have along this time. So this is really amazing, and we're in the JFrog office.
Yeah, I can't believe that we're sitting in the same room together.
Yeah, that's insane. So really happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
All right, so today we're going to talk about our journey with customers. You know, we had similar challenges during our careers. I worked as an HDS, and you were working with customers a lot. So I want to talk about the challenges that you had during your journey, how we can do some best practices. What will be the best way to develop application on Cloudnative today?
Right. So basically, when we look on customers, actually not just customers, companies, there are mainly two types of companies, right? Those who was born to the cloud and build cloud native applications from the first day, and those who were migrating to the cloud, taking on-premises application, renovating the application, and move it into the cloud and building cloud native applications, but not from scratch. Now, I would say that for both activities, you're going to meet some similar challenges.
Right.
And our purpose for today is to kind of talk about the tools that we actually use on daily basis that we believe that can help companies to accelerate these processes, move to the cloud faster, and without facing a lot of challenges.
Yeah, so let's try to make their life a bit easier with everything that's related to the cloud native. So what do you prefer? What is your favorite tool?
So actually, just before we talk about my favorite tool,
yeah,
I like to look at this from three angles. Okay, we start with the development side.
All right. Yeah.
This is like the first
stage. We have to start with the developer.
Exactly, with developer application.
Yeah.
Then we need to make sure that we have a solid infrastructure that runs our application, right? And third, what happens in production?
Well, all right. And what about CI/CD?
Right, CI/CD. This is as well as another important thing. So basically, let's talk about development.
All right, let's start from the beginning.
Yeah.
It's the development. So what is your favorite tool?
So my favorite tool. My favorite tool for development is basically this is Dapper.
Dapper.
Dapper. Wow. What is Dapper?
All right.
So Dapper is basically a really cool tool. It's actually more like a runtime that helps you to develop applications, to develop microservices in the cloud a lot faster.
All right. What do you mean by a lot faster?
I'll tell you. I'll explain.
All right.
So look, as a developer, you're gonna face with integration and building a lot of applications or services that are not necessarily part of your real business, right? It's not something that is related to your business logic. So for instance, integration with object storage in the cloud, with queue services, service buses, databases, and a lot more.
Yeah, basically all of our
setup, logging, right? Yeah, right. But this is not your main business. This is not your application, but you have to develop it because this is how you integrate it with the cloud, for example. Now, it not ends like that. You need to build a solid framework that the whole company will reuse it later on. So it becomes like a real thing. It becomes from like one single thing that you need to do as part of your job to something a lot bigger that should be solid enough so that others can use. It will be easy to use it as a reuse, and it becomes a lot more than just integrating your platform with the cloud provider with a storage account, for example. So what Dapper does for you?
Yeah.
It is basically a runtime.
All right.
It is a runtime that integrates your microservices with the cloud. It's already implemented all of these integrations, and you can actually use it. So for instance, I want to drop a file into an object storage. Okay, so it can be either Azure or any other cloud provider. Now I want to drop the file into object storage, but I don't want to mess with integration with the cloud provider.
Yeah,
so
I just want to use the API, right? For
exactly.
Example, just the
So
API
Dapper already have integration with blob storage, for example. So I can tell Dapper, look, this is the file that I need. Put it in blob storage. This is my credentials for the Azure, for my Azure portal, and this is what I want you to do. Let me know if it was successful or not.
All right,
Okay.
and if I don't have this object, for example, I didn't create this object storage, I don't have the cluster.
No, so you have to create it.
All right.
But as it is there in the cloud, you can use it with Dapper. You can develop your application to use Dapper to do all of your communication with the cloud provider, whether it's service buses. So for example, most of the microservices communication, service-to-service communication should be event-driven, right?
Right.
So event-driven mostly use message buses. So instead of developing the message bus platform from scratch, using the API, the SDK of the message bus, wrapping it up, making sure that it is production ready for your company. You can use Dapper. It's already built it for you, integrated for you, and the only thing you need to do is to tell Dapper, bring me the messages from this queue.
Okay, that's
so
very cool.
Now what is more interesting about Dapper, that because it's a runtime, you can use it to run your application. So you can actually run it alongside your application or inside your application, and it works with every language because it's support gRPC.
Okay, cool. That's really, really awesome. So anything that I will write, I can always use Dapper and upload it and use my services. But what will happen if my developers never deploy to Kubernetes, right? It's their first time. They need to start everything from scratch, and it's so annoying and so confusing. What we should do?
Well, that's actually a real question because it's a challenge for a lot of developers. Typical developer won't want to deal with infrastructure, DevOps stuff. It's like, it's not my job, don't let me do that.
Yeah, right? Of course, it's running on my machine. I don't care, just to make it happen.
They take this code, make it run in production. I don't really care.
Exactly, just do your magic.
So in my perspective, they should care. But anyway, I like to use Draft.
All right.
Because, for a developer, he needs now to build a Docker file, he needs to write YAMLs for Kubernetes, he needs to take care about a lot of different stuff that is not pure development. And they necessarily don't want to do that. So Draft helps them to take their microservice into Kubernetes in a couple of very, very easy commands.
All right.
CLI command, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So it actually builds the Docker image for you. It builds Helm charts for you. It deploys the application into Kubernetes for you. So the only thing you need to do is to use just Draft commands.
It sounds really, really nice, but wait a second. How does it work?
Okay. So imagine that Draft can actually recognize what languages you use to develop your microservice. It uses, so it actually reads your code, go over your code, recognize some indicators that indicate this is several things that we need to make sure that we have in the Docker file. This is the entry point for the application. So this is the port that we need to have in the YAML files for Kubernetes. So it recognizes some indicators that tells Draft what are the action items that they need to do to build your YAML files for Kubernetes, Docker files. So it actually builds Helm charts, and as well as to deploy to Kubernetes. Now, also another interesting thing is as the developer, you don't necessarily want to deploy a Kubernetes cluster by your own. So you're necessarily going to ask the DevOps team to provide it, or alternatively, you can ask that Draft to provide it. Because basically, Draft can recognize if you have kubeconfig installed in your file in your laptop, and if you don't have it, it will create a Kubernetes cluster for you in Azure. And we'll give you the credentials and we'll deploy your application into it. And in the end of the process, it will give you a proxy to your application. So it doesn't expose the application to the public internet.
Yeah, you just.
But it actually gives you a kube proxy into your pod, so you can actually browse the application, in your website, like in your web browser, like it is a local application.
That's really, really cool. But what will happen if we need it on production? Can we use it on production?
So you have so many good questions today.
I tried to prepare something for today. So,
So yeah, no, you're not going to use it in production.
All right.
But you're definitely going to use it as an accelerator
Mm-hmm.
to run your services in production. Because if you need to start from scratch,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to take you some time.
All right.
You're going to need to start building your application, your YAML files, your Docker files, everything from scratch.
All right.
But if you're going to use the graph, you have like a pretty good solid basic.
Mm-hmm.
Then you can reuse it. You can change some stuff there. You can edit it and customize it to fit your production needs. So, make sure that you use the right service type for Kubernetes. Make sure that you add limits for the applications. Make sure that you use secrets, environment variables, all of the best practices.
Mm-hmm.
But this actually accelerates a lot of the stuff that you need to do.
So basically, we have kind of a nice starting, right? We can customize it to our needs, and maybe we can get it to production one day, but it's not there yet, right?
It's not there yet for production, but definitely a good
great
start for production.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. Now, eventually,
Mm-hmm.
all of these applications translate into packages. Now, we are in the right place to talk about packages, right?
Exactly.
JFrog is like, this is your main business.
Exactly. This is our goal. And actually, it's like you said, we're using binaries, packages, whatever you want to call it. And for that, we actually created Artifactory. You heard a lot about Artifactory. So Artifactory, if you didn't heard about it yet, Artifactory is a binary repository manager. It basically can manage our artifact. We're uploading everything to our Artifactory, and it's kind of a smart client. You remember that we talked about cost and reducing the cost.
Yeah.
So in Artifactory, there is a great feature to make sure that if you're uploading the same artifact twice, we are not really saving them twice in our storage. We will just create kind of a pointer in the database.
Yeah.
So you're reducing all the costs, because most of the time we're using the same dependencies, the same code again and again, right? We're changing just a bit of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. We want to create microservices, something very, very small that we're changing.
Right.
So Artifactory is also supporting Helm, like you mentioned, with Dapper and Docker, and a lot of languages, like if you want to package with NPM, or if you want to use Java, we're supporting, of course, Gradle, Maven, and much more. So,
maybe we can have a look on Artifactory. Let's see how it looks like, how it feels.
Sure, let's do that. So just a sec, I'll share my screen. And here's my Artifactory. I guess that you saw that so many times, but this is the latest version. All right, so here's our Artifactory. We can see the packages. Let's take some, for example, one of the Dockers that we really like the Nginx here. So you can see the version. I just downloaded the latest version. 2 people download it. We can see that it's part of the repository that we have here. It's actually part of the build that we're going to get it later, but let's look at the layers. I can see every command that I used as part of this Docker image, which is really nice. Whenever we have a build and we want to create kind of a diff between 2 builds, what changes in this image, I can see that very clearly. I have all the commands that are running here. So we have the layers. And we can go to artifacts. And as I mentioned, we have a lot of different package types. So if I'm just clicking here, you see we support Alpine, Maven, NuGet, .NET, everything we need, it's right here.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So, I am under the impression that today, if we talk about security for cloud-native applications, a lot actually starts from the containers itself.
Right.
Now, there are so many different ways to achieve security for containers. And I think that we can definitely handle a lot of the security requirements as part of our registry operations.
Yeah, so that's
so
exactly
you don't have really to do a lot of scanning inside your CI/CD. It can actually be part of your registry. Is that correct?
Yeah, of course. That's why it's part of our platform. We have Xray, which is doing exactly that. We are trying to scan our dependencies, and we want to make sure that we are avoiding some open source licenses. You remember all the crazy stories about companies that just need to expose their code. It's crazy. They lost tons of millions and so many crazy stories. So that's why we created Xray. I'll show you really quick. And here, let's take our Xray from here. So we have the security and compliance. We can create policy, we can create watches, and in policy, for example, I have a very strong feature that will allow me to block the download of the artifact. So in case that you are, as a developer, just uploading something that contains any security vulnerabilities, I can make sure that you can download it in anywhere in your CI/CD, and I will fail the build. I can make sure that you can download it from Artifactory.
So basically, if I push an affected image as part of
Even
my
a layer,
CI/CD,
even just a file inside your image, we will find anything.
So that's basically fails my job.
Exactly. We want to make sure that everything is failed.
And I actually, it's just one click in the Artifactory.
Yeah, I'll show you. Look at this. Whenever I'm clicking on watches, I can take my Docker image right here. And if I'm clicking on summary, I can see the exact artifact that contains the vulnerability. You see, it find me the layer inside my Ubuntu here. And here is the file. I can even have a quick summary that let me know what is the issue, what is the security issue that I found. And if there is any fixed version, I will get a version 2 so I can update really quickly.
Wow, that's really, really cool. That's really cool. And it saves us a lot of time in the DevSecOps area.
Exactly.
Right?
All the area that we don't want to use, we want to just give it to the security team. It's exactly
like,
for that.
As a DevOps team, can actually allow a lot of stuff here.
Right.
And come then to the security team. This is it. I done everything. Just approve it.
Yeah, that's why we have the reports here. I'm just creating a new report, sharing it with the security team, and just go and handle it. We don't want it anymore.
That is awesome. That is really cool. This is nice. Okay, so now we basically need to take our applications into Kubernetes cluster.
Exactly.
So what you said before, the CI/CD part.
Yeah, we need this part. It's super important, and there are so many CI/CDs in the market. You know, there are so many different ways, but it's really interesting. What is your favorite CI/CD? At least in this day. I know it's hard. There are so many.
I'm not sure if I want to share this secret with everyone.
Just try.
Okay. So basically, my favorite CI/CD is, of course, GitHub Actions.
Yeah, GitHub Actions is very cool. I remember that we had a talk about it before a while.
Yeah, before COVID.
Before COVID.
Yeah.
When we saw people.
Yeah, GitHub Actions for me is the best platform to handle CI/CD. So for some reasons, it's so easy to use. You can take your service, build your CI/CD pipeline, 10 minutes. It's so easy to use because you have, I would say, some kind of a marketplace for CI/CD.
Marketplace.
So yeah, it's amazing. You can choose a part of GitHub Actions that covers deployment for AKS, a part that covers integration with the Artifactory, with JFrog. Put it together in one file, YAML file, of course. Now you have a deployment ready.
Yeah.
It's like pushing the image, building the image, pushing the image, deploying it in Kubernetes. You can also decide on the deployment methodology, like canary deployment, green deployment. It's really so easy to use. It's also secured. GitHub also has a lot of security features, so you can actually make sure that your code is secure. You don't have secrets in the code. And in GitHub, everyone loves GitHub.
Of course, everyone uploading to GitHub. It's so easy. It's an amazing community. You know, everyone loves to help and share. And also, as you mentioned, it's kind of a user plugins, right? The marketplace that we have there. We don't need to install everything. We can just click it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I think one of the strongest features that GitHub Actions has actually is that it's YAMLized and it's part of your code. Wow. So it's not anymore like an infrastructure thing, a DevOps thing. It's part of your code. Each developer can be responsible for its own CI/CD. It's revertible. If you do any changes, it's a code changes. It's not something aside your application. It's binded to the application, to the version of the application. So for instance, if a specific version of the app requires changes in the CI/CD, stick together.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so if you do revert,
you can just click revert back or something.
And you revert as well the CI/CD.
Cool, and it's YAML, and developers love YAMLs. It's so easy. Yeah. I love it, especially. It's really, really cool that I can just create what's happening there, right? It's not, you don't need really to investigate too much. You can just
You don't need to write scripts. You don't need to write. It just boom.
Just there, exactly.
Yeah. So that's why I really like GitHub Actions.
Yeah, I love it too. And actually, I prepared something. You want to say that?
Of course.
Awesome.
Let's see if we have some questions.
All right, let's go to the Q&A.
Okay, I guess Dapper for .NET devs. Of course, so someone asked here.
Yeah, let's repeat, I think.
Yeah, let's. So I guess Dapper and Ty are great fit for .NET developers. So right, Dapper, as I said before, can work with every single language because it's gRPC. So you definitely can use Dapper to develop your .NET application, integrate it with a lot of different services. So yeah, definitely.
Right.
Dapper as a service. So okay, did I hear you mention using Dapper as a service bus? So not exactly as a service bus, but as a service that will make sure that you integrate it with the service bus. So you can actually tell Dapper, I want to use Kafka. I don't want to write it by my own. I want to use Kafka. I want to Dapper to be integrated with Kafka, and I'm going to tell Dapper that I need to communicate with Kafka, and Dapper will do it for me. I'm going to use the APIs that Dapper exposes, but actually Dapper is going to communicate with Kafka in this case. So yeah,
there is also kind of a generic one, right? I can create my own API that I want to talk with, or something like that. Customize API.
So you can customize APIs there. So basically, Dapper is really cool.
All right.
It's really cool. Yeah.
Really cool.
First, it's really cool. Second, it just accelerates development.
Yeah.
It's not a platform. It's not a service bus. It's not a storage. It's a layer that sits between your application to these services and help you to communicate with these services faster and easier.
Yeah.
In terms of development.
So it's like one layer after that, right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. It sounds really, really cool. So let's move on to the GitHub Actions demo.
Yeah.
And of course, feel free to share with us your questions on the Q&A or in the chat. We're here for you guys. All right. So here is my application. So I created something really, really simple, just a Docker file with
so what are you doing here?
All right, first of all, I just opened my repository. All right, I didn't do anything, just open my repository with my Docker file and the deployment because I want to upload to the AKS.
Okay.
I love Azure and I want to upload to a small application to my Kubernetes. And this is basically how look the workflow. Whenever I'm creating a CI/CD on the GitHub Actions, it will create me a directory .github/workflow, and here I can create different YAML files that containing it.
Okay.
So every push, every time that I'm triggering a new commit, I'm creating an Ubuntu image that will run on my AKS. And I'm using JFrog CLI. As you mentioned, we can easily add some stuff and tools. So I just use my CLI to upload it to my Artifactory.
Yeah.
So here's my Artifactory snippet.
And this is securely stored in GitHub.
Of course, it's in the secret to make sure that everything is it's secure and nobody can see that.
Yeah.
And I can choose different Docker registries. So if you want to test it on your end, you can easily fork it and just use the Azure Docker registry. And basically, I just created my image, nothing super special, just a Docker build like everyone knows. And then I'm uploading it to my Artifactory. So I'm doing a Docker push here, collecting the environment variable. So if I want to make sure that I'm using a specific runner, for example, or I want to track it and see the exact version, I have all the details in my Artifactory. And after I'm uploading it to my Azure, you see here my cluster name and the resource group. So I'm creating my application on my Azure cluster. And then I'm making sure that I'm having the image, the deployment, and I'm uploading to Artifactory.
That is awesome. So basically, it shows how you can take a simple CI/CD pipeline, definitely built in 10 minutes.
Yeah, you can easily convert it, of course, to anything you need that's related to Docker applications and so on.
built a Docker image and deployed it into Kubernetes.
Right.
And I can see some references for deployment YAML files and so on. So it actually takes the deployment file.
Yeah, for my GitHub, of course.
From your GitHub and actually replace the image with the image that you just built.
Right, exactly. I'm always creating a new image if I want to. Of course, I can create it once a while. But yeah, I want to change it. And I think one thing which is also super important is all the information that we have in my build info. So let's talk a bit about build info.
Okay.
It's look like that. So I uploaded my application. When I'm going to the builds, I can see the AKS deployment here. If I have a few different builds, I will see all of them right over here. But let's take this build. So we created Nginx, right? We talked about Nginx and an image with all the layers that we'd like to see. Everything is right here. And the build info, it's super, super powerful. You see here that I can see the user that uploaded. I can see the environment variables, like which folders wasn't in use whenever we upload the application. So in case that tomorrow you're creating a similar image with a small change, I can see the diff between them very, very easily.
Yeah.
Very quickly, I can even create very complicated queries to find the difference between them or something specific that I'm searching for. For example, if you want to see if the QA passed it, right? We want to make sure that we're testing the application and we have everything. So I can add my own properties to see if it's passed the QA or not.
That's nice. That's nice. Wow.
Yeah. So here's all the information. Every layer is right here. And of course, again, feel free to ask any questions.
Okay. So right now we have our application in Kubernetes.
Right. In our Azure
In
Kubernetes
our
cluster.
Azure Kubernetes cluster, right? What happens next? So now we want to have it in production. What are the different stuff that we need to take into account when we run an application in production?
So first of all, I think one of the most important things are monitoring, right? We have to monitor our application and our infrastructure.
That's
You don't want to wake up in the middle of the night, getting the call that everything is crashing and you need to help for your customers or for your friends.
Right. So what is your go-to tool for
well,
monitoring
that's hard. There are a
production?
lot of tools for monitoring, but I really like Prometheus. And if you want to, also sometimes I'm also using New Relic and Datadog, but I think Prometheus will be the best choice in that case. It's really easy to monitor your infrastructure, and also if you want to, but it's not exactly, you may need to use different tools, right? We want to create kind of a huge monitoring with monitoring of our application and our infrastructure. So I think you can try to combine different tools in that case.
Why is it so important to monitor infrastructure?
Right, it's so basic. Like if something happening, if your server is down, or if you have tons of requests today, right?
Yeah.
Let's take this webinar. If we have a lot of registration, and we need to make sure that we can easily just grow up and create another node or create another server or something like high availability in case we need something for our application. It's really, really important to have those things. And also, you may want to find those things before your customers, right? In some of the cases, we're saying in JFrog, we're eating our own dog food. We need to test it. We need to make sure that we're seeing them before the issues that are happening on the customer's environment.
Yeah.
And I believe that you saw so many things.
Agree.
So many crazy things that happening only on your specific environments and stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's really hard to copy the production.
Agree. So, and I think that it's really important to have an holistic view on our applications, both from the infrastructure side and the application side, because eventually the application affects the infrastructure and the infrastructure affects the application.
Yeah.
And we cannot ignore this fact.
Exactly. Everything is related.
Yeah, and just something popped in my mind. We didn't think to talk about it this webinar, but you spoke about microservices applications, about scaling applications, and then something came in my mind.
All right. I love it. I love this direction.
Completely random. It's not part of our planned webinar, which is Kida.
Kida.
Yeah.
We worked with Kida before.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's right. How did we forget this one?
Yeah, that's really shame.
So Kida is autoscaler for Kubernetes. It is really good with event-driven applications because it gives you the ability to scale your application on Kubernetes based upon application metrics,
yeah,
not just CPU or memory. So for instance, You can be proactive, sorry. You can be proactive by the way you scale your application. So for instance, if you know that you have a lot of messages in the queue because you get a lot of messages from your customers, a lot of APIs translates into messages in the queue. You can basically tell GitHub, this is my queue. Have a listener on this queue and scale my application based upon amount of messages in this queue.
Yeah, so it will grow up whenever we need it.
Exactly, and you don't have to wait to the CPU to go up.
Yeah, it's really
the memory
scary
to go up
together.
to exactly. So it can make it a lot efficient the way you scale your applications.
That's very cool.
Yeah, and it also can be scaled to zero. So you
Really?
basically can run your application, and if there's no messages in the queue,
it will just scale down and it will be zero. We won't
it
use
would be
anything
zero.
until
It
we
would be
get
zero
messages,
containers
right?
running.
Zero containers until we get new messages.
Exactly. Let's see if we have any questions.
Sure.
Okay, we
All
don't
right,
have
so
any more
far so
questions.
good.
Yeah. So I think there's one last thing I want to talk with you about,
So
which
tell me,
is
it's
cloud
the best
native
part.
application bundles.
All right.
So we spoke about scale, applications, infrastructure, and each one of these parts is basically very independent.
Yeah.
Right. You have the infrastructure as code, and then you have your application, but it doesn't come together as one piece. And then you need to wire everything together by your own.
Yeah,
right?
That's the hard part,
And
all
this
the
is kind of
devs that
what
need to help. And whenever I'm calling my colleague just to help me to create this dependency and stuff, this is the hardest part.
Exactly. But what happens when you want to deploy a new service from scratch, including the infrastructure? It's a process.
It's a
You need to go to the
process.
DevOps team. They need to create the clusters, all of the infra side, then CI/CD, then the application. So it's like a process.
It's super annoying. I hate this.
So I like to talk about cloud native application bundles in this case, because look, what's the difference between a bundle to a package?
It's kind of combination of few packages. It could be combination with the field, whatever we need.
Exactly,
Like a script or something. Yeah.
So what's really nice and interesting about cloud native application bundles is that it basically wire up together everything that you need to deploy your application in the cloud, including infrastructures, database migrations, configurations, scripts, everything together into one kind of package.
Yeah.
So you basically don't need to build everything by your own. And it actually works with everything that you already built. So for example, eventually it's a standard application format. It's a standard that you can actually take your existing infrastructure as code, like Terraform, your existing Helm charts, and put it under one package.
So basically you're saying that I can skip all the readmes that I have in a lot of applications and stuff that I need as part of my development and learn also only the way that you're writing on CNAP, right?
Exactly.
All right.
So now CNAP is pretty complex. And you need to know CNAP into the details in order to be able to use it. So that's why we have two different tools that you can leverage to use GitHub CNAP. So one tool is Dapper. Dapper is still kind of advanced tool because you still need to understand how CNAP works and what are the different steps of CNAP behind the scene. But with Dapper, you can actually build cloud native application bundles. Okay, cool. With Porter, you can build and deploy as well, but it is a lot easier because it is one YAML file. It is a command line tool. All right. We love CLIs. Yeah, we love CLIs. It's much easier, yeah. Exactly. It's a command line tool that you can actually build cloud native application bundles with this tool, deploy them, publish them, and use them. Okay, cool. So that's really cool. So you basically have one YAML file where in this YAML file, you specify the cloud provider that you use. You specify this is my Terraform template. Yeah, I guess it's super generic, right? We can use whatever cloud provider that we want, then we can use Terraform or Ansible or whatever we want. Exactly. Right? Okay, cool. And then, wait a second, sorry. If you're running locally, is it working? Yeah, okay, you can run it on VMware as well. So you specify this is my infrastructure as code. These are my templates.
Yeah.
Use them to deploy the infrastructure. Then these are the scripts that I need to run to do some migration, data migration, whatever
needed.
configuration, some adaptations, and so on. This is my Helm charts. This is my configuration. This is my secrets. This is like everything that I need under one YAML with security, because it basically uses your security in your laptop. So basically, you can store your secrets in your laptop, and then it reads the secrets from your laptop and use them.
Okay, cool.
So you don't actually tell that.
Yeah, we don't need to create a
This is
different file.
my credentials to the Azure portal. This is my environment variables that stores the credentials and use them. And it is under one YAML file where you can actually make it parameterized. So you can define. So for example, if I want to change the port of my Helm chart.
Okay.
So mostly you're gonna go to the Helm chart, change the port in the YAML file, in the value files. With Cloudnative application bundle, specifically with Porter, you can change the port inside the YAML file for Porter, and Porter will inject it into Helm charts.
Oh, that's amazing. So whenever I'm taking this Porter, I'm just taking it to a different environment and can use different ports, different, I guess, more things like security stuff.
Exactly, exactly. Now, when I talk about Cloudnative application bundles, I like to talk about it from 3 different standpoints.
All right, I love your points.
Yeah,
let's start.
Standpoints.
Just standpoints. All right, what is the first one?
The first one is developer standpoint. As a developer, you quite often need to give others the ability to run your services, right?
Right.
So as a teammate wants to run their services, a new guy in the team wants to run the application in his laptop. Now he needs to go through some documentation, then a lot of time he actually consults with the team.
You just consult with the team. Exactly. What I did is just raise my hand and call my colleagues.
But I need your help. I cannot run your service. Can you help me?
Exactly.
I don't know what's going on.
I called you so many times. It's just.
So, and that's exactly the point. Instead of giving him like a repo with README and this list of things that he needs to do and dependencies, let's give him this Cloudnative application bundle. One click, this is deployed, installed, including infrastructure, including application configuration, for test, for production, for development, everything that you need. So this is from the developer standpoint. It's easier to deliver application and publish it.
Cool. So basically, maybe we can publish it. Actually, I think about it now. Maybe we can publish it with distribution. Remember the tool that I show you to create a release bundle that we can easily release to other services and other Artifactory or Edge node. So maybe after we are creating this package with our dependencies, of course, we can add them, or our application that is finished and the build info, we can just create a package, will be kind of a package. It's more like release bundle that contains our CNAP. And then we will release it to different locations, different Edge node and different Artifactory services. That could work. Yeah, we need to do that.
Yeah. So this is the first standpoint. The second standpoint is actually the DevOps standpoint. Something happens here.
Let's see. No, we're fine.
Okay, we're fine. Okay, so from the second standpoint is the DevOps standpoint. Think about it as one immutable entity for your application.
Yeah.
You no longer need to do some manual changes. It's everything is there as one piece. You don't have to do manual changes. You don't have to worry about how to change everything. How to make sure that it will run in production. How to reproduce some changes that you did in one environment. So how are you going to reproduce it in another environment? So it is one immutable entity for your whole application, from infrastructure to the application and everything in between.
So basically, in one command, I can run everything.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a magic. I'm not sure it's really possible.
It just wires up everything into one piece.
Yeah.
Now, and the last standpoint, I like to call it everyone's else standpoint.
Everyone.
So the user's standpoint. Why I like to call it? Because how often you want to install a new application
Mhm.
and a new service, JFrog Artifactory.
Yeah.
I want to use it in my company, in Microsoft.
Yeah.
So I want to use it, and now I need to install it, right? So
Yeah.
there's the README. I need to go over the README, make sure that I use the right performance for instance Kubernetes.
Yeah, or you're calling me or support and checking
Yeah.
the README, but yeah.
So going over the README, this is the dependency, this is how I install it, this is how I do that.
No,
Sorry, this is how I configure it.
It's like so many things that you need to make sure that you have all of the configuration. And if you want to create it on production or in something that will be similar to production, it could be super annoying.
Exactly. Now what happens when you did a mistake? You need to go over the README all over again.
Wow. And
that's
find
really
the specific annoying parameter. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And that's really annoying.
Yeah.
So think about it as package.
Mm-hmm.
Cloud-native application bundles is basically a package. So you no longer need to go over this endless README. You just need to enter one command and have this application with the infrastructure runs on your environment. Just use it.
Sounds crazy.
Yeah.
We have to create something like that, in one click we will have everything, and it sounds amazing. It sounds really, really cool. I'm gonna test it after this session. I'm gonna try to play with it a bit, but it sounds amazing, really.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a game changer in the way I see it. But I think that's it. We covered everything that we wanted. Yeah,
we provided some great tools, so try to use them. And I think it's great time for a Q&A, right? Let's see what people think about questions. It. If you agree or disagree, feel free to share it with us. We want to see your comments. All right, so I see here that someone that's here is Adam asking about open source tools, if most of them are open source or not. I guess that Dapper is open source and Draft is also kind of an open source.
So actually everything that we talked about is open source.
Yeah. Of course, there is kind of an extra versions, but most of them are open source. And you even have Artifactory as an open source version, so feel free to try it. Yeah, exactly.
So I'm talking about the tools that from the Microsoft end. It's not actually Microsoft end. It's kind of open source that is driven by Microsoft. Microsoft is kind of the main contributors to the open source project that we talked about. Yeah, they did an amazing job with all of the movement to Linux stuff and open source. Yeah. It's crazy. For your end, if I want to get started with JFrog Artifactory, you can easily just open a free cloud, and you have Xray and you have Artifactory. You have the platform that actually will stay while you are uploading your open source code for a while. So yeah, you can just try to test it and play with it. That's nice. That's nice. Let's see if we have more questions coming. All right, cool. Okay. So Mike says, what is the alternative for JFrog from the Microsoft and to deploy application into Kubernetes? So basically, we have, in Microsoft, we have stuff that are similar to JFrog. Yeah, like the Azure registry. So as we did in the code, you can easily switch it to the Azure registry. Exactly, but you still can integrate stuff together. So for example, you can use Azure DevOps as your main engine. And you can always call JFrog Artifactory from Azure DevOps and keep using everything for one central place. Yeah, I think that in Azure DevOps we have kind of a plugin that support it, which is very, very similar. Yeah. And Azure Functions too, I think we can do something with that, right? There is something with the functions. Yeah. Oh, that's why I didn't know about it. Really? Yeah. So I think we have kind of a solution for that too. But exactly, in Microsoft, there is also great tools that support similar stuff. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Okay. All right. So I think it was really, really fun. And thanks again, Ilan. It was amazing, as always, to talk with you. For me, it's always so fun to be with you, to deliver webinars and meetups with you. And finally, we can do it together, really together. So for me, it is a pleasure to be here in JFrog office in Tel Aviv.
Same here. It was amazing. Let's share our details. If they want to keep in touch or something, here's our details.
Yeah.
Feel free to add us to LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever you want.
Exactly. How do I do that? Okay.
Yeah, almost there.
Share the screen.
Yes, I think we can leave it for a few minutes and let's wait. If there is anything else in the Q&A or chat, feel free to share with us. And thanks again for joining.
Awesome. Thank you, Batel and Idan, for this really great presentation. We hope you enjoyed it. So as they mentioned, you can reach out to them directly if you have any additional questions or would just like to chat about the things we talked about today. You will also receive the recording of this webinar. If you have any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Batel, Idan, any final thoughts?
No, thanks again. Thanks everyone for joining.
Yeah, and we look forward to hear from you.
Exactly.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your day, and we hope to hear from you soon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you.